Okay, so we are going to do problem 7-3 for our chapter 7 homework video. Really similar to problem 7-2, and this is something that will also be on the exam. So you'll want to know this one. Okay, so Razor Sharp purchased equipment for $48,600. Okay, the equipment had a useful life of 3 years. Whoops. And the residual value was $3,000. Okay, so these next two things I create just as like helper. They're intermediary steps. You don't actually need them, but they're helpful to have. Okay, so the amount depreciated for straight line method, remember we depreciate our asset value minus the residual value. Okay, so our amount depreciated will be the equipment minus the residual value. Okay, so that's the amount that we're going to depreciate over its useful life. Okay, double declining rate. Again, this is another thing that I think is just useful to create now and tie it into formulas so that it will be fixed all the time. So the double declining rate is going to be 1 divided by the useful life. So basically our straight line depreciation useful life. And we're going to double that for the double declining rate. So multiplied by 2. Okay, that gives us 66.7. Now, the cool part about doing it like that is if I give you a problem that has a useful life of 5 years, you change that to 5, and your double declining rate will change with you. If I change that to 10, your double declining rate will change with you. Okay, so that's one reason I like to do that. Now let's go to straight line depreciation method. Okay, so straight line is just going to be, again, our equipment less the residual value divided by the useful life. And the equipment less the residual value we've already calculated in this amount depreciated line. So I'm going to take that amount depreciated and I'm going to divide that by the useful life. Okay, and that is my straight line depreciation. Now, this is a cool thing in any spreadsheet software. I can copy this, Control C, and I can, whoa, wrong button. And I can paste it here, Control V, and Excel is a referential formula. And Sheets is a referential formula. So on this line, it was D6 and D5, and on this line, it's D7 and D6, and on this line, it's D8 and D7. Now that's useful when you have this long data set, but for us, we want to have D6 divided by D5 the entire time, okay? And so we can tell Excel or Sheets to do that by locking in and making it an absolute reference, okay? So you make things an absolute reference by putting dollar signs in front of the column and the row. So there's a shortcut key to do that. It's F4. So if I press F4, that puts a dollar sign in front of column D and row 6, meaning that it will stay with column D and row 6, no matter where I copy that formula to. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean by that. I'm going to copy that over here, and you'll notice that D6 is still D6, but now I've got J10 over here, which is just this random wildcard. Okay, so I also want to lock in this D5. And if you keep pressing F4, it will just toggle through. So this for D5 locks in row 5, but doesn't lock in column D. So let me illustrate that again. If I drag that down now, I get 15,200 because I've locked in row 5 and row 6 and cell D for that one particular reference. But I didn't lock in column D for my divisor. So if I copy this over here again, it has moved with me, but it's still in row 5, even though I've copied it down. If I copy it down here, again, it's still in row 5. So the only thing that it's allowing to change is the column in that case. Okay, so those dollar signs are absolute references, is what those are called. And depends on the formula that you're creating, but in this case, I want it to be absolute for the cell, not just the column and not just the row. Okay, so let's copy those down. So my straight line depreciation, pretty simple, 15,200, but is that correct? Okay, so now we can tell if that's correct, because we know the useful life is 3 years. And if we depreciate our depreciable amount over 3 years, and we do it correctly, we should end up with $3,000 as our book value at the end of this. Okay, so let's test that. Our book value is going to be this 48,600. That's where we're starting. I'm going to lock that cell in, and I'm going to subtract what we depreciated during the year. Okay, now, the next one doesn't use that lock. So now I'm going to take our beginning balance for our book value, because in 2008 we depreciated, so our equipment value is no longer 48,600. It's this 33,400. I'm going to subtract our 2009 depreciation. Then if I copy that down, cool, I get 3,000. So there's your check. Our residual value should be 3,000, and our book value at the end of 3 years, our useful life, is also 3,000. Okay, so everybody is happy there. Now, here's a cool reason for locking in cells. Remember, I locked in cell D3 to create my book value. I'm going to do that. I'm going to just copy all 3 of those, come over here to the book value, and I'm going to paste that in the book value. Okay, so again, that's right, D3 minus our first year depreciation, and then our existing book value minus our depreciation. And again, okay, so now we have our book value already calculated for us, and we can work on our double declining rate. Okay, so in the beginning, we calculated our double declining rate with this formula. So now let's just do the simple part. So double declining balance, you're not going to use the residual value to depreciate. So you ignore that when you start your depreciation, and you need to pay attention to it at the end. Okay, so take our equipment value, and we're just going to multiply our equipment value by our double declining rate. Okay, so there is our first year of depreciation. And for our second year of depreciation, we take our new book value, which we've already calculated here. We're going to multiply that by our double declining rate. And we're going to lock that cell in. Okay, cool. And then if we just copy this down. Oh, by the way, this little box at the bottom, when you hover over it, you get this black target thing. If you click and hold, you can drag down and it will copy your formula down for you, just so you know. Don't know if I've shown you that either. Okay, so cool, we have our double declining rate, and oh, wait a second, we're not correct, because our book value can't go below our residual value. Okay, so a little earlier I told you that the residual value doesn't matter in the beginning, but it does matter in the end. Okay, this is where it matters. So instead of depreciating your double declining balance, you have a cap. So we're going to say whatever our book value was at the end of year 2 minus our residual value is our depreciation amount, so that we don't depreciate past our residual value. Okay, so you always have to do that with double declining, and that's something that you want to watch out for on the exam. So let's say that you're going to use this as your worksheet for the exam, and you're going to change the useful life to 5 years. Okay, that 5 years, your you need to change your formulas here now, okay? Because if we're going off 5 years, we need to copy that down 5 years. And we would need to copy that down 5 years, okay? And recreate your final double declining balance there rather than on this line where it was before, okay? So something to keep in mind on the exam is really pay close attention to that. Another thing to pay close attention to, which I should have done with this problem actually, is pay attention to the timing of your depreciation. So this depreciation started July 1st, 2008. Really, we should only have half-year depreciation here because we only had it for 6 months of the year, not 12 months of the year. So this depreciation assumes a full year. And really for 2008, we should only be depreciating a half year, and we should add 2011 here and depreciate another half year. So those are some things to pay attention to in your problems, and something that you might see on the exam too. As always, if you have any questions outside of this video, feel free to reach out and I can help.